This conference will now be recorded.
Do we need to turn the TVs on? And before we get started, if anyone's here for the Parkland School District Transportation Center project, they've pulled from the agenda, so we won't be discussing that tonight. All right, welcome to the South Whitehall Township Planning Commission meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic, a nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Wilk, would you like to do the roll call?
Trevor Dombach.
Here.
Todd Faring.
Here.
Ryan Haight.
Here.
Diane Kelly. Here. Mark Luth.
Here.
David Wilson.
Here. I'd also like to make note of township staff and consultants here tonight. We have April Welk, Land Development Coordinator, Dave Manhart, Director of Community Development, Jennifer Aldifer, Director of Legal Services, and Aaron Bett with the Pidcock Company, Township Engineer. Ms. Wilk, would you like to do the meeting rules?
Sure. For an orderly meeting wherein all attendees may be able to fully participate, we ask that you adhere to the following rules. In order that both in-person and remote attendees may hear all comments or questions, all in-person attendees will be required to use microphones at all times. We request that remote attendees please mute your microphone or telephone to avoid background noise that may cause interference in the meeting and make it difficult for others to hear. Staff may mute the microphones or remote attendees if needed. Public questions and comments will be taken at periodic intervals throughout the agenda. Unless otherwise permitted by the chairman, residents shall limit their comment to no more than 5 minutes. The chairman or vice chairman, as the case may be, may extend comment beyond 5 minutes in his or her discretion. The chairman may rule out of order, scandalous comments, irrelevant and redundant comments, and comments designed to disrupt the meeting. For in-person attendees, please sign in on the appropriate sign-in sheet. Raise your hand to be recognized, then move to the podium when directed. State your name, address, and comment or question. For remote attendees, chat box features will be active throughout. If you have a question or comment, please type your full name and address in the chat box. When you are recognized and so directed, please unmute your microphone and state your comment or question. Mute your microphone when done. For those who are accessing the meeting by phone only, staff will periodically ask for caller comments and unmute any callers. Callers must identify their name, address prior to making your comment. Your cooperation in adherence to these rules will ensure an orderly and respectful meeting.
Thank you. All right, we're on agenda item number 3, review and approval of the September meeting minutes. Does anyone have any comments on the minutes?
Make a motion to approve.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
None opposed? So moved. All right, we're on agenda item number 4, subdivision review. Before we get into the projects, I'd just like to pull the audience here and online. Is there anyone here other than the applicant and applicant's representatives here for the PPL Houseman Road sidewalks? No, anyone online? Okay, how about Willows at Calvary Temple? Okay, so the bulk here is for Willows at Calvary Temple. If you take a look at the agenda, the process we follow is the township staff will give a brief presentation, then our township engineer will. That's followed up by the applicant's presentation and planning commission discussion. Then once the planning commission has discussion, we'll open it up to the audience. You can come to the podium, state your name for the record, and ask any questions, so forth and so on. So we're on agenda item number 4A, PPL Houseman Road sidewalks. Mr. Manhart, all yours.
Yes, so this is an application to further develop a property located at 827 Houseman Road. The total site is just over 40 acres. The plan is proposing to install a paver patio, new concrete sidewalk, some fencing, relocate a crosswalk, and add a stone pull-off area. The property is served by public water and public sewer. It's zoned IC1. PPL Corporation is the owner, and Feditz and Martin Associates is the applicant. The applicant has been here at a previous planning commission meeting, received our township comments. They've addressed the bulk of those comments. We are recommending approval subject to 15 conditions. The first condition is a standard condition that we put on. In this case, it's if deemed necessary. This is the agreements section of the conditions. The next 2 through 13 are addressing all the comments of our staff, third-party consultants, and review agencies and boards and commissions. 14 is reconcile open invoices. 15, plans deemed clean prior to being presented at the Board of Commissioners. So we are recommending approval with those conditions. That I can hand it over to Aaron.
As Dave has mentioned, this was a resubmission, and the applicant has addressed comments that we had in the past. The comments that are remaining within our review are very minor in nature, mainly just clarification to make sure everything's kind of teed up. There is one deferral request, and then there's 7 waivers that they will be requesting for tonight. There's a deferral for sidewalk. We defer to the township staff in this instance as it's a planning item. In their letter, they had supported the deferral. 2 are regarding our standard drafting waivers that we typically see presented in front of us. We have no engineering objection to that. The 4th waiver would be for the lighting, landscaping, and zoning plans. In accordance with the township staff letters contained within the packet, they would support that waiver as well. There is a waiver for the provision of site distances and site triangles shown on the plan, as well as proposed grading. In this instance, we are not supporting this waiver. Both of these waivers, excuse me. Since this is a site plan, we typically like to make sure all the clear site triangles are shown on the plan. There's no obstructions in them, making it safe for everybody to use. And as additionally for the grading, they are proposing a paver patio walkway, so we feel that proposed grading should be shown as well. The 7th waiver has to deal with open space, in which we feel this is no longer necessary to be a waiver as it's annotated on the plan. And then the final waiver is for a ENS plan approval from LCCD. The design engineer has indicated that it's less than 5,000 square feet of earth disturbance, so that approval is not required. So we have no engineering objection to that. Based on our comments and moving forward, we recommend engineering approval.
All right, thank you. Would the applicant like to give your presentation and state your name for the record?
Now it is. Sorry, my name is Jason Buckta with Hawk Consulting. We are the civil engineers for the project. I mean, pretty much everything has been covered. And you know, as far as the waiver requests, three that were mentioned, one of them being the fees in lieu of, obviously, yes, that should be taken away. And then the other two regarding the site distances and the grading, we can comply with the plans and add that information.
Okay. All right. I know you've been here several times now. Does anyone on the planning commission here or Trevor online have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I have a question. Was there a previous deferral on sidewalk on Houseman Road in place?
I'm 90% sure there was, yes.
And yet it looks like we required sidewalk up to the residential development to the west, coming down Southgate Court. That sidewalk pretty much goes nowhere, where they could at least go across the street and walk north on Houseman Road, because there is no sidewalk on Houseman Road. I mean,
Yeah,
I think we've been.
I think
We've hit people with sidewalk in the
yes,
past.
and the
And
rationale
run businesses out, including the restaurant, because we wanted sidewalk on Hamilton Street.
the rationale for the deferral was it's a minor improvement. Wait until there's a bigger improvement, or call in on the sidewalk.
And there might not ever be a major improvement here. Now would be the time to get your deferral, since you've deferred it in the past.
Yep.
Well, I, for one, would not be in favor of the deferral at this time, even though it is a minor. They had the deferral in place from before. They never had to do it before. And we just required it from the developer to the west.
Yep. And to the north, where the liquor control board building is, they have a section of sidewalk too.
Yes. And if they have a deferral, I'm sure, because they only put it across their entrance from what it looks like. But
Anyone have any other thoughts on that? All right, so in terms of these, I guess we'll continue talking about the frontage and the sidewalk. Dave, so on the screen, it's on the right side of Houseman Melody, right?
There's nothing north of the stub comes out from Luther Crest.
Yeah.
And then there's nothing to the north, other than little segment,
which I'm sure
liquor
they got a
control
deferral
board.
from the whole length.
What's that?
They probably got a deferral from the whole length.
Yeah.
If we made Luther Crest do it all the way down to their intersection.
Yeah. So part of the Luther rationale behind the Luther Crest call-in was to link it to the
Shopping center.
shopping center.
Sure.
So there's more to the south than there is.
And they do have employees that walk on Houseman Road during lunch breaks or whatever. I've seen
Not
myself.
aware.
Rather get them off the roadway.
I don't want to punch PPL. I just don't like the fact that we do it for some and don't do it for others.
All right, so the sidewalk one, seems like, that's something we might want to think about, but I think the subsequent, the waiver requests, we could run through and it may give us, 5 more minutes to think about the sidewalk. So if we move on to number 2, this is a waiver request from sections 312-12B15 and 312-12B21, and it's just graphical depiction of existing contour information, location and widths of sidewalks, trails, driveways, streets, easements, etc. within 400 feet of the site. This is a pretty common waiver request. Does anyone have any comments on it?
I do have a question. So if the conversation will continue this evening on whether or not we will defer or require sidewalk, does it make sense? Staff need to see contour and sidewalk in the area to get some connectivity and make sense of what it is the township's looking for.
So I don't think this waiver, we would certainly need the grades for the sidewalks when that plan comes in, but I don't know that we'll need it for the 400 feet.
Yeah, essentially Google gives them that. The engineering, then we wouldn't have to go and have an engineer go over and physically locate.
That's my question.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
asking what staff.
Yeah, it shouldn't stand in the way of a sidewalk.
In terms of our review, if sidewalk were to be proposed along the full frontage, we'd have to see it to the edge of the property and kind of within those limits, they should have grades that will be able to tie in at that point. But I don't think 400 feet would be a worthy to explore further. Very good. Staff concur. Very good.
Would I be able to address the commission?
Oh, absolutely. Just state your name.
My name is Kip Feditz. I'm the architect and the applicant. The question about the sidewalk, first of all, you're talking about an enormous length of sidewalk for this particular piece of property. For a small little project that we're doing for fencing and a few sidewalks. Okay. The enormity of this project doesn't rise to any kind of level where you should have to put sidewalks in. The sidewalk cost alone is probably going to be 5 times the cost of the entire project for the rest of the sidewalks. 5 times, maybe 50 times more because of the entire length that it is. This is a relatively small little improvement for security at this particular building. The fencing is going in for security in order to make turns of driveways work better. We had to add a little bit of concrete work. And in this work, we also created a small pull-off for temporary drivers that come to this facility on a daily basis. PPL probably would be willing to put some sidewalks at the entrance area along the street, but this sidewalk won't really lead to anywhere as far as leading from this particular property. This property's been there for 50 years now and has kind of lived without the sidewalks. I totally understand your argument, Kip. So I feel that there's an enormous request to ask for such a little project. There was a deferral in the past, and I've sat here and argued against it on other projects for littler projects than this, and this board has would not give a deferral. So, and Dorney Park being one of them. So I'm here saying, PPL, you have a deferral in place. Now would be the time to call in the deferral. And just to the west, Luther, whatever that is, Luther Crest, they had to do it down to the main road so they could get to the shopping center. But in this case, they could walk across the street, back up, loop back into Luther Crest as a walk. What size projects were those that you were requiring that sidewalk work? I don't think it matters for the size. What size? The restaurant was 600 square feet. The restaurant was 600 square feet of additional impervious to the site, and they wanted sidewalk and curbing along Hamilton Street.
I will say, this is just my opinion, Hamilton Street is a much busier street. There's a lot of traffic along there, and you have a lot of people from Dorney Park walking on the side of the road. Here, you have the PPL office and residential homes. It's not as highly trafficked as Hamilton Street. So, my own single personal opinion, it's not necessarily apples to apples. The existing facility has been there a very long time. I don't have an issue with a deferral. That's just my opinion. I know different opinion.
I think we even made Long's Water Technology do it. Yeah,
And the surgical center that's going next to it.
and they go nowhere.
And that has less traffic than probably this section of Housen Road.
I think that's very, very narrow back there, though.
I believe the conversation at that time was pedestrian safety from connectivity to pedestrian safety. So in this area, is there spot,
Pull up the Google
an
Earth
exit
on-
where you could put sidewalk over to the same location, to the PJs, if people from this business location would want to walk because the other direction, I don't know that there's going to be pedestrians.
So what we would be talking about is a frontage improvement. So it would be the sidewalks along the entire frontage of the parcel. That frontage of the parcel goes to the driveway. So we couldn't require sidewalks to the south. So it essentially would run to the driveway by the water tank. Shows up on So for the deferral, it would be, if the deferral was not granted, sidewalks would be required from the driveway essentially to somewhere in this vicinity.
We make an offer that we can connect up that sidewalk I offered near the driveway that would actually then connect up with the new sidewalk. You just put in across the street for whoever that is there. Phoebe, right there. Connect there, go across our driveway, and then connect up with the sidewalk in the parking lot. Nobody from this facility walks to the shopping center down the street there. They all drive.
And you're saying nobody walks on the street during lunch?
I'm
or
not
anything?
saying that. I'm saying this facility, nobody walks from this facility. They drive.
None of your employees walk on Housen Road.
I'm not saying none of the employees walk on Houseman Road, but they don't drive to the shopping center. We would offer to make that connection right there, which would make it safe to get to the shopping center if anyone were to walk there. And they could certainly walk down to the that side street and enjoy that sidewalk as well.
So just to clarify, using the aerial here, you're proposing taking this sidewalk, extending it down, having a crossing, and then a crossing here.
Yeah, we would just go to the crossing because that water tower isn't PPL's. That's actually owned by the township.
I think the township would be willing to work with you.
Okay, I think so too. But we shouldn't have to extend the sidewalk down past the water tower because that's not
Understood.
PPL's property.
Understood, right? Yep.
That seemed like reasonable.
Seems reasonable.
It's reasonable.
It just has, it's good because there is some connectivity.
Okay.
Would certainly match the scope of the project versus the entire frontage, but
All right. So in terms of this deferral request, would we make it like a conditional deferral?
It would be a partial deferral from the point north of the driveway. I don't know how we'll have to structure it, but we can certainly figure something out prior to BOC. I think we just, for now, we need to have the motion reflect what we're talking.
Okay.
I would suggest that it's a partial deferral conditioned on staff working with the applicant to establish the area for connectivity that they're proposing so that we have an exact location determined.
Are you both okay with that?
So what, with a partial deferral, then we still can't go to full commissioners for approval then? Is that what you're saying?
You would have to work it out with staff for
We wouldn't
that.
have to come back here to the commission.
No,
No,
all I'm saying-
internally with staff, you don't have to come
Yeah.
back to.
No problem with that.
Okay.
so I think the wording of the deferral request then just needs to be altered to reflect what I said, and like Dave said, it's a partial deferral, and
Okay.
the deferral request is denied to some extent. That
Okay, so would someone like to?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Right. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? None opposed? Any last comments, questions? No last comments, questions? So moved. All right, we're on number 2, which is a waiver request from sections 312, 12B 15, and 312, 12B 21, showing existing features such as contour information, walks, right of way, etc. within 400 feet of the site. Does anyone want to make a motion
I'll make a motion.
in favor of the waiver?
Waiver of the waiver from 312-12B15 and 312-12B21.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? None opposed? So moved. All right, we're on waiver request number 3, and this again is showing existing features around the site beyond this within 100 feet of the site, such as location and character of buildings. Does anyone want to make a motion on
I'll make
Yeah.
that motion.
it? And that motion is in favor of the waiver?
Yes, it's a small project.
Yep. I'll second it. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? None opposed, so moved. All right, we're on.
I'm sorry, I'm going to intervene just to let the record reflect that we have a planning commission member that is no longer remote, and they are currently in person.
All right.
Thanks.
well,
Thank you. I was going to say something. Here now.
All right, we're on waiver request number 4. A waiver requested from sections 312, 12B 36, 312, 12B 37, and 312, 12B 41. Landscape plan, lighting plan, and zoning plan.
Make a motion to grant the waiver.
I'll second it. Those in favor? All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed, so moved. All right, number 5 and 6, I believe you indicated you would show the site triangle and the gradings. So those are removed, okay? Number 7 is not needed, so we're on the last one, which is a waiver request from sections 312, 12A 13, 312, 12B 39, 312, 39E, and 312, 12A 9. Have any justification for the waiver? It's a small project.
Yeah, we're under 5,000 square feet. And typically, conservation district doesn't like to review those size projects.
Yep. They're. I'm an engineer. They're backed up. It's a tiny, under 5,000 square feet. I don't see an issue with it. I don't know if anyone else here has any comment.
I mean, square footage of this potential partial deferral not going to move you towards that threshold, right?
No, it won't.
No.
The threshold's typically around an acre.
Anyone want to?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. So moved. All right. So those were the waiver requests.
Dave, I'd like to add something quick, just to formality. With the last waiver that was received, condition 10 in your packet is going to be removed. Okay.
Okay. All right. Since we're good segue into making a vote, does anyone want to make a motion for the project?
I'll make that motion with the removal of condition number 10.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? None opposed. So moved. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
All right. Once again, I'd just like to note the Parkland School District Transportation Center project's been removed from the agenda. So right now we'll be on agenda item 4C, Willows at Calvary Temple. I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Manhart.
Let me get my stuff set up here.
And just a reminder, everyone, staff will do a presentation, then the engineer, and then planning commission will discuss it, and then I'll open it up to the floor. And if you do want to speak about the project or have any questions, just come to the podium, state your name for the record.
Okay. This is an application to further develop the property located at 3436 Winchester Road. The plan proposes to construct two 4-story, 24-unit apartment buildings. Building A is approximately 11,000 square feet. Building B is approximately 13,000 square feet. Both buildings have 11 two-car garages, and there will be 26 dedicated surface carport parking spots on the 16.49 acre parcel. The proposed buildings will be served by public water and sewer and are zoned high density residential, the R10. Calvary Temple, Allentown, PA is the owner. Ingerman Construction Management LLC is the applicant. This project has been submitted and have been several revisions. We've had several rounds of comments from our professionals. At this time, we are not recommending approval. The applicant, I believe, is here to provide an update. And with that, I will.
As Dave has mentioned, we've seen this project a couple of times, and we have worked with the applicant and their team to move forward with the project and continue our review. There are a couple zoning issues that are lingering out there, so we will not be recommending engineering approval. Our comments contained in our letter are specific to sidewalk location along the frontage, certain comments regarding the private driveway, stormwater management comments, including off-site tributary area analysis, tailwater conditions of the basin, and overall stormwater management design. They're proposing 2 underground subsurface facilities, detention facilities, which then discharge into a surface basin, which then would connect into the existing storm sewer within the township right away. There's a list of waivers and 7 waivers that they had presented to us. I'm sure the applicant would be more than willing to discuss. But again, at this time, we are not recommending engineering approval.
On to the applicant's presentation. You want to just state your name?
Sure. Eric Schock from Fitzpatrick, Munson, Buba. Jeffrey Long from Ingerman. Alec Nahas from Bowler Engineering. As was mentioned, we've made several sketch resubmissions to get comments and winnow down some of the open items. But we haven't been back here, I think, in quite some time. So I thought maybe the first thing is that Jeff can kind of reintroduce himself and kind of bring you up to speed on the project, and then we can talk about some of the items. But I don't think we have an issue with. We're not going to be looking or pushing for a recommendation tonight, so we can go through what we need to go through. We've got some information to share on some of the items in here, but we're okay with taking it back and seeing you another time.
Hi. Oops. Sorry, just this does not stretch actually. All right. It does. This is okay. There you go. Hi, how's it going? My name is Jeff Long, and I am a development principal with Ingerman. Ingerman is a multifaceted development contractor and management company that is operating apartment complexes across the Mid-Atlantic. We've completed over 125 apartment complexes. We have 7,000 apartment units that we currently manage. We have a construction company that does about $100 million a year of multifamily construction and development. I've been working with Ingerman for 19 years. I've do everything from source land, meet with planning and engineering consultants, as well as oversee the financing, the construction, and the leasing and management. So I'm the principal. I run the development from its inception through its operations, and act as a point of contact between the municipality, the community, and our company. I've been working with Calvary Temple for about 5 years at this point, maybe a little more. We first started meeting probably in 2019 or 2020. I definitely remember it being during the pandemic that we were starting this process. Calvary Temple had some designs to look at how to better utilize some of the land that they had seen as being underutilized on their property. And we went through a variety of different land planning exercises, different iterations. And where we landed was on what we're talking about today, which is 48 units, 2 buildings, mixed income apartment complex, which includes 40 deed restricted affordable units and 8 market rate units that'll be open to non-deed restricted households. There's 14 1-bedrooms, 22 2-bedrooms, and 12 3-bedroom units, a management office that's on site, as well as a maintenance shop. There'll be a community room and other community facilities that are located within one of the buildings, A. We'll have an on-site manager, we'll have an on-site maintenance person, and a part-time social service coordinator. Generally speaking, one of the major questions that we always have is, who are the persons that will be living there? These are units that are targeted for working class people. The affordable deed restricted units will be for persons earning anywhere from $35,000 to $65,000 a year, and the open unrestricted units will be open to anyone, and those are 4 1-bedrooms and 4 2-bedroom units. At this point, we have worked worked for a few years on assembling financing as these mixed income developments utilize a whole host of state, local, and federal funds. We have secured affordable housing tax credits from Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency. We have secured some money from Lehigh County, and we have identified potential lenders and investors in those tax credits to finance this development. So at this point, I think that's just a general overview. Just one other point I'd like to make, I think it's critical. The Calvary Temple is a partner in this development. They will retain ownership of the apartments themselves and ownership of the land. So there's going to be a land lease arrangement between partnership, which is an Ingerman Calvary Temple joint venture, and the ownership of those units will, still involve Calvary Temple, and the management on day to day will involve Calvary Temple service provider and as helping further their mission. I know that Pastor Ray Ricketts, who's a very involved member of the community, would love to be here tonight. He is doing mission work out of the country, so I'm sure that he will be here for further meetings. And just to wrap up, we do appreciate the input because we've been working on this for about a year, volleying back and forth with the town professionals, as well as we have also met with the community and hosted community meetings at the Calvary Temple to at least talk about what we're proposing and hear about some of the potential impacts, which we realize are important to the community, and there is concern. So we have been trying to reach out, hear what we can hear, do what we can possibly do, but also develop a viable property.
Thank you. Alec, why don't you just briefly run through a few highlights of the plan, and then while there are a lot of comments in here, I don't know that there's a significant number that we think we would need to discuss, but we can touch on a couple, and then we'll talk about the zoning that's open to wrap up.
Yeah, sure. Happy to go through some highlights of the plan. As everyone pointed out, this is a 16 and call it 16 and a half acre parcel that we're proposing to subdivide, and the reason behind the subdivision is that apartments are permitted as a principal standalone use in this district, but they are not permitted as in any normal circumstance. You'd say, why didn't we just put apartments on the lot that exists today? It has to be subdivided. Now, the two buildings are provided access from both Winchester, Kingston Place via Lester Place. We are doing widening on Lester Place to meet the cartway requirements of a local street, providing curbing on Lester and Kingston, as well as sidewalk around the Lester Kingston corner there, as well as I believe it was mentioned as a driveway. And I think that's one of the points of clarity that starts to delve into the zoning. The access that you see from Winchester back to the rear property, which apartments, the intent is for that to be a private local road that is to the standard of a township, and that's one of the requirements for parking. Now, I'll say I think it was noted in the review letter as a driveway. That's something we can clarify with the engineer and work together to just provide justification for all of the standards with sidewalk, curbing, drainage. As it was mentioned, there's 445 parking spaces, which is for the church, inclusive of all the activities that occur within the church. That's meeting rooms, fellowship rooms, daycare rooms, as well as the apartments, which includes both, as was mentioned, surface carport parking spaces, internal garage parking spaces, and external surface carport. On the stormwater, which is a very key topic for this property. The current configuration, I don't know, Dave, could you possibly scroll to maybe the aerials? existing today, say in the northeast corner of the property, there's two township-owned basins, which I'll refer to it as the eastern basin, which is closest to western basin. The western basin serves the purpose of essentially retaining runoff from the church. Proof that's all parking areas. It's just a detention basin, and its overflow is right into the adjacent basin. The adjacent basin to the east only captures offsite runoff, which is roughly 250 acres to the north and beyond the property. Now, that basin, very early on in the project, pointed out to us that it has an issue where it overtops in frequent storms. The reason behind that mainly is that this basin was designed back in the early 70s, or 80s. And back at the time, the modeling had an assumption that predicated it for probably what would be considered undersized today. And the other important key is that the outfall from this basin, which essentially routes stormwater all the way from Leicester down to Kingston, across the 22 interchange, and further down through the creek. That's a 24-inch pipe, which is taking 250 acres. That is vastly undersized. So the reason behind all that ponding and overtopping is a township storm sewer that likely could use upgrades. The reason I bring that up is our obligation for the state and local permitting is to provide volume and rate mitigation, volume for a 2-year delta storm. We're providing on-site volume mitigation, 100-year increase of runoff from impervious surfaces. That's any new parking surfaces, new buildings. Change in runoff volume for a 100-year storm event is captured in those undergrounds that were mentioned. It's being dispersed in a drip irrigation system located behind them. It's also worth noting that underground basins provide roughly 150% more storage than what currently. And I make those points just to say that typically offsite runoff, the responsibility is viewed as you're just supposed to safely convey it across your property. You're not typically held to retain it on your property. This is a case where existing detention occurs on this property, trying to maintain and
Yeah, so on zoning, obviously there's two lots, so a lot of the comments are similar with respect to those. There's really, I would say, the three buckets that the open zoning issues fall into. The first is pertaining to the road. As Alec indicated, the design of that is no longer a driveway; it is now to be a road. So we'll work with the engineer to confirm that we're comfortable that that's what we've done, because several of those zoning comments are not applicable once we turn that into a private road to township standards. Second, there's some comments relating to the buffers. The buffer yards are there, but there are instances where there is not landscaping shown. I believe there is an alternative where you can utilize a buffer fence, and that was the intention in the areas where there was no landscaping. But you'll just need to provide details to show the buffer fence. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. The yards where a fence is used, typically a vinyl fence with evergreen plants, that'll be reflected.
Yeah, so we think we'll address that one. And then the last one pertains to the configuration of the buildings, and we'll work on addressing that comment to create kind of the front of the building to be on the courtyard.
Yeah, so basically,
it will effectively be just a much smaller version of some other apartment developments that are present.
Some other apartment.
Or the garages back, and then
Thank you. And understanding we're not voting on anything tonight, was there anything in particular that you wanted feedback from the planning commission to assist you with any design decisions or anything on your end?
I think from this point, it's been a few years. 8 year or long.
Oh, sorry about that. No, we had come here a few years back with a sketch plan that was out of conformance with the zoning ordinance. We've gone through many iterations with the staff about these changes that we're trying to make to conform with the ordinance, and so we wanted to at least get the ball rolling here with having the conversation moving towards compliance approval from the planning commission.
I know one thing I noticed. I know a lot of new development. It actually does improve stormwater. I've seen that in several projects. I believe one of the basins are designed where the 5-year storm event will engage the emergency spillway. That has me a little concerned.
I think you're referring to the above ground basin.
Yes, and I don't know all the specifics, but
Yeah, that's correct. So, and really what the piece of context for that is that the existing overtops in a 1 year. So we've sort of staggered that out. And that goes to one of the waivers that deals with freeboard that we're requesting. And I believe that's an item that we can kind of discuss with the engineer. But I've had some offline discussions with the engineer, and some feedback that was given that we can potentially look into is currently, like I mentioned, we're widening Leicester, providing a a cross slope and an improved gutter slope there to kind of facilitate drainage for a pretty flat road as existing. We're adding additional inlets there as well to kind of increase the capture efficiency for that runoff that would go through the spillway. Kind of today, how it exists is it's just a flat basin that's level with the road. So our design creates a berm and an engineered spillway to as intended direct that overtopping condition. Obviously, it's something that we can discuss more with the engineer if there's more we can do to improve that. Again, it's purely a result of offsite.
yeah, I think that's going to be a hard ask for a waiver request. So I do recommend you working with Aaron
Yeah.
and Pitcock.
We've worked with Alec. Tony Tellerita from our staff also has worked with Alec, and he actually provided an alternative after the plan submission of something that might work a little bit better.
Yeah.
The issue that we also see is the existing basin, the South Whitehall Township basin, is a regional pond. And in this process of proposing this development, we're putting a parking lot over the facilities. We're modifying that regional pond. So yes, I agree. It's not designed properly, but the project has to meet the standards today. It's hard to see a report and make that recommendation on our end when the freeboard is active during a very light storm event.
Most likely, you're going to need to bring it up to current standards.
And obviously, we're in the process of the MP.
Yep.
Well, that's something that they'll probably look at. And as Aaron mentioned, we've already kind of discussed, like I mentioned, there's some additional revisions we can make to probably.
Yeah, and it's going to be an iterative process because you'll need to work with LVPC, Conservation District, Township.
Exactly,
So you're
and that's one of the reasons we wanted to come here tonight and have a discussion is we do have an outstanding letter from LVPC, and we wanted to kind of garner that feedback before we respond to them, just to avoid additional back and forth. We want to get in a good position, Township and the Conservation District.
Great. Does anyone have any? And sorry if I barged in before anyone, but does anyone have any comments, questions?
Did this project already go through zoning for any relief?
No, so we did file an application when there was more zoning relief that would have been required. And we've, I think, gotten 2 further reviews, which each time has provided us comments. We've made changes to address open zoning issues. One of the things is when you change one thing, it affects another. It's like moving deck chairs around on it.
The only reason
But we've gotten to the point now where we actually believe it will apply, and we just need to work out the 3 items that were still there, which we think we have answers to.
Yeah, I guess my question was, does the church really need that much parking? I might pass it 3 times.
That is an issue of the ordinance requirement versus.
And if you're going to go back to zoning to maybe get some relief for the church parking, because I've never seen that church with more than 15, 20 cars.
It's certainly a conservative parking calculation that the ordinance requires.
I mean, more blacktop, more stormwater, more everything. I don't know, even on voting days, there's plenty of parking. I mean, I've never seen it. I've never seen it back. I think they do a lot of online services. Something to think about.
I don't have any. Yeah, a couple questions. So I see the plans. You have an alternate emergency vehicle route that's on forced pavement through on the west side of the buildings.
Yeah, Dave, if you could go to the non-colorized site plan, that'll show more clearly. Yeah, that's correct. That was a comment from the fire marshal to provide that access around there, and that's a method we've used before to kind of cut down on impervious surfaces. Those geogrid blocks are HS20 rated for a full fire truck, so.
Yeah, but also you have a call out on there where you're looking for potential to refer that land to the township.
That is an open space area which offered by the township. It's difficult to offer these items to the township, and it's
Just a note on the open space. We'll be at the next public or Parks and Rec meeting. So we'll get the feedback on the open space dedication and
I believe the
additional.
last comment would like it to remain open. Public or would not like it.
There's some other zoning related open space with active and passive that we have to kind of get that feedback on.
And one more on the southwest corner of that shaded green area. I don't know if I'm interpreting it correctly, but is that where you have your spray irrigation?
Yeah, you might want to go to the utility plan, Dave, which I think is one more. Yep. Yeah, so that area there in the southwest corner, that's below grade, which is drip irrigation.
So you don't have to winterize that, do you? Because it's
That is a great point, which goes to why we are able to provide that 100-year volume mitigation year round. Typically, LVPC would comment and say that, you need to meet the stringent release rate requirements in the winter when a system like that isn't active. In this case, keep it active 365 days.
okay. All right, one other question. So you just have the underground, under parking lot storage, stormwater. Is there like a vertical tower?
Could you clarify the question?
So a lot of times there'll be like a small water tower, hold that excess water, and then allow it to slowly permeate or infiltrate on site after the storm event.
No, there's no above ground tower. It has an outflow into the above ground portion of the basin there. So any storage that isn't detained for that drip irrigation system is flowing freely out to ultimately into the.
What's the open bottom basin of that underground? Have you evaluated karst potential?
The underground is going to be lined.
So you are going to line it?
Yep, that's going to happen.
Sorry, I misread the waiver. Okay. Oh, last question. How long's your land lease?
It'll be no less than 75 years.
Okay.
And
I've seen those go 20 years.
no, it's
You're gone,
it's a
and then
long
you're just left
term.
with nothing.
Yeah, it's long term. And there's business relationships between Calvary in terms of their ability to, stay in management and operations. And just as a point about karst, because I know that karst is always an issue. We build a lot in karst affected and impacted areas as a contractor, so we've dealt in it. We're used to it. We understand, the testing and just the operational necessities that go into dealing.
Yeah, during construction, it's absolutely, you can mitigate it. My concern is post-construction.
Oh, for
I
sure.
want to make sure you have that, and the applicant knows that that's in your operating budget, so you're not abandoning.
And that's the second part of that is that we've dealt a lot in karst. We dealt a lot in these underground basins management in terms of having the O&M plan. To the extent that the township wants, we could record the O&M plan on the deed, so that way it stays in the property and is part of the record going forward. We're very attuned to how to maintain the requirements.
And for the applicant's engineer, did you say you met with LCD yet regarding your stormwater plans or no?
Yeah, we actually received administrative completeness from them today on our general permit application.
Okay.
And we had a number of formal pre-application meetings with them as well to discuss the nuances and intricacies of this project.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else? Not online. Kids, anyone in the public have any questions, comments?
For people online, we'll take comment from people here, and then once we close that, we'll open it up to virtual. If you want to make a comment virtually, type your name and address in the chat, and I'll read through any names on that list. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, you come to the podium to state your name for the record. Yep.
And address.
And your address. All right, it's good.
Okay. My son has a property on Kingston Place, which is the community on the east side of this property under question. And my reason for being here was 100% about the stormwater. He's had the property for 15 years and has had a foot or more in the first floor of water. And when we first heard that they were going to construct more buildings and get rid of parking space, that did not sit well, and that frustrated. Listening tonight and understanding, and I need to understand who approves this stormwater piece. Would that be this board?
There's three entities. You have the local government. So Pidcock Company does stormwater review at the local level. You have the county government, Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, and then you have the state government, which delegates the stormwater review to the Lehigh County Conservation District. So there's three entities. So there's three layers of protection, and the stormwater requirements today are ridiculously more stringent than they were even 20 years ago. So, stormwater here being designed, I don't even know how long ago it was. What you actually do see improvements in stormwater control, and we're not going to let them cut any corners. The county and the state they're not going to let them cut any corners. There's a lot of soil testing, geotechnical, soils investigation. There's there's a lot of layers of security there.
And you can understand after having cleaned out, 4 feet of drywall,
Absolutely.
the problems that causes. And so I wanted to make sure the township knew, and I wasn't sure if this was the right township entity, but I want to make sure the township knew that this is an issue that the township has, and I just don't want to get in that position again. I'm glad to hear those other sources, and I'm glad to hear that this is the group, at least here, that will do this. And I guess I can call back and get contact. I'd like to contact your office if I could.
Yeah, sure.
That's really what I wanted to say. I wanted to make sure that you knew that this is a real issue, and I've worn the boots and dug the drywall out.
Keenly aware of the problems on Winchester Drive.
This is an iterative process, and it's going to take some time. So they'll submit plans, review it. Our township will provide comments. They'll have to adjust it. They'll do the same with LVPC. They'll do the same with the conservation district. So the development takes a long time, and there's going to be multiple rounds of.
Great, thank you.
There's a lot of eyes on this one because it's a regional basin too.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
There's a lot of eyes on this one because it's a regional basin too, so everybody's aware.
Which basin? What do you mean by
the basin that you see now with the low flow channels and the berm? Okay. That's a regional basin.
Okay.
Your basement's flooding out right now because you have a large area that's draining.
That spot.
It's actually the first floor, not the basement.
First floor. Sorry.
Yep. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yep. Just state your name and address for the record.
Deborah Galt, 1422 Princeton Court. I'm a realtor with Iron Valley Real Estate, and I also worked for Samuel Geltman Property Management for 5 years, and they managed apartment complexes like Olympic Gardens, Hellbrook Springs in this area. So the first question I have for the applicant is, will you be accepting Section 8 subsidized housing? Okay, great. What will the tax basis for this be? Will Calvary Temple get?
No, we pay conventional.
Okay, great. I have a question about the trees that will be buffering this. What is the process for maintaining that, whatever it's going to be? Let's say it's, pine trees or arborvitae or something.
There's an O&M operation and ownership and maintenance agreement that has to be signed with the township. I'll defer to Jennifer and Aaron in terms of the specifics of O&M agreements.
I would need to know and understand exactly what trees and where we're talking about, but typically shade trees are dedicated in easement form to the township, and the property owner maintains ownership. So their responsibility is to maintain them. If they fail, the township can step in. The township is not obligated to, but we certainly have the right to do that if we feel it presents a problem that warrants involvement by the local government.
So I'm asking this question because the church Asbury is behind us, and they installed, I don't know, 30 years ago, some arborvitae, and they used to maintain them and trim them, and they haven't done that in like 10 years. And so I don't know what you know, what the process is or what they're required to do or not do.
I will say the land development process is an opportunity if there's an existing buffer that has gaps, not fully buffering. It is an opportunity to have the property owner fill in that buffer to meet the code requirement.
That it's not really that. It's like you have an arborvitae, and after years, it's going this way and that way and brown, and they're just not.
I don't know that there is actual legislation that requires them to keep their arborvitae pretty.
There is not.
No.
Oh, okay. All right. So
like your neighbor doesn't have that. And just because they're a church doesn't mean they have to do it.
Okay. Well, I didn't know. That's why I'm asking that question. Yeah. Okay. I guess that's about it.
I think that would depend on the location, though, Mark. And
if it were hanging over someone's house, but I mean, if it's the edge of their property and it's an arborvitae and it has a limb that's falling, I mean, unless someone complains and someone files a formal complaint against the church, it's not necessarily the church's responsibility to go run out there and trim a branch.
So if it's a street tree and classified as a street tree, that's when we have more jurisdiction. But I think buffering, it kind of depends on where it is. And if it gets classified as a street tree, work through all that.
I know a lot of developers work with the local community, and if they want a couple arborvitaes planted, the developers are sometimes willing to work with the neighbors.
Yeah, I mean, I'll step in. We'll work on it's an existing buffer, so the best buffer is to keep the buffer that you have.
Absolutely.
And supplement the buffer to the extent that you can with the correct species. I mean, we have an arborist, but if the township has an arborist, we're happy to walk the buffer and figure out where there might be holes and make adjustments to the planting schedule. But we've already kind of looked through that and addressed that to the extent that we can. I think it's reflected on the plans, but to the extent it's missing from the plans, it's something that we can make a commitment to the commission that we would do so.
In our shade tree commission, actually, we have some professionals in the landscaping that.
So I'm happy to volunteer Alec and his landscape architect to to do that.
It's in the arborvitae's best interest to be trimmed.
Yeah.
I do agree with you, but I don't know that.
Yeah, if I could just add a few quick things to this discussion. The shade tree did provide some comments on some species for street trees that we were able to address for them. As far as the buffer trees, you're correct that, typically there's no legislation beyond, indefinite time. What I will say is typically, as far as the maintenance bond is concerned for construction costs, typically that 18-month maintenance bond might be held until if there's a dead tree in that first 18 months, that would get replaced before they can have the, their letter of credit release. So at least from that standpoint, you'd be covered. And yeah, we're happy to, walk the property. And if there's areas that, feel like they could use an extra tree, we're happy to do so. And I will say that the ordinance, the zoning ordinance is very specific about, density, types of plants, location and spacing. So, we've addressed that fully in the buffers that are shown.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Tom Newell, 1554 Brandywine Road. Just have a question about the occupants of the property. You've identified the income levels for the people that live in the low income part of the property, but is there a reason the property itself is being labeled as low income? Is there a purpose for that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll field that. I mean, when we spoke with the church, and we did some planning exercises with them in terms of how they envisioned what they wanted to see on their property. A goal of theirs was affordable housing. It was their desire to see affordable housing because they saw that as a mission-driven opportunity for them. So it was both, a business opportunity for them, but also furthering their mission and what they're doing currently with
their property. So it kind of worked together. There were other options, but that was the one they chose. And since that was the road they chose, the best path to do that is using the Pennsylvania Housing Finance Agency sources of financing, and that requires deed restriction on the property, specifically for the affordable units. So, hence how we ended where we are.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about affordable housing, and we don't see a lot of it. It's actually admirable that they're offering to do it. All the apartments that are going in downtown and all the apartments that I've seen brand new are not affordable for your children coming out of high school or college. They can't afford $2,000, $2,300 a month.
Yeah, I understand that, but also look at market values too.
Yeah, I don't think 22 apartments is going to kill the market value of our township.
Well, it's your opinion. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
On Cheatley, 1411 Hampton Road. I have several questions. I'm not really sure. So are they paving over the whole retention pond?
Not the entirety of it.
Will it still be exposed if it's full?
And that's one of the things that was mentioned earlier. We have checks from different agencies that have to review it and ensure that we're not proposing any.
So if it does flood, then you'll cover all the people's houses that are flooded? Or you're giving flood insurance that it won't happen? I know it floods. I've talked to people there, their whole basement flood out. You know, best thing they said happened was when they built the retention pond, then it made it better. Before there was a retention pond, it was much worse than it is now. But
They're actually going to provide more water storage with this project. They're going to have these enormous underground basins. They're going to have this large excavated basin. They're going to use drip irrigation to infiltrate it into the ground to meet code. So when the township, the county, and DEP have their way with it, it's actually going to reduce the water runoff.
and why does some of it have to be open? Why can't they close the whole thing and run it all underground so there's no problem with flooding?
But they have to adhere to what's on their property, and they have to account for their stormwater. I mean, I've been in 2020 seeing the water come over the Country Crossing Basin,
right,
across Walworth Avenue, and down Pond, and then come down to Winchester. So they can't account for water that's going to come from someplace else. So the thing to remember is they can't let any more water off that site post-construction than it was coming off pre-construction. That's their goal, and there's a lot of eyes to make sure that that happens. But in a global rain event that happens to come from somewhere else down, they can't control that.
We've seen it flood or fill the whole.
I've seen it total flood. Yes, sure.
So if you had a house there right on where they are, you wouldn't be worried about it with this.
I would feel better that they're there to do more work than what's there now, or better work and more storage than what's there now. You on Hampton Road, you must have known when Walworth Avenue blew out a million times from that farm across the street. It hasn't blown out once since they put 252 houses in.
Regency, yeah, I know. Okay, another question is, when this thing first came up, I was told there was like 109 units, then it became 96 units, then it became 48 units. Is there a change? You could come back and want more?
At this point, we've spent a year plus trying to figure out how to get 48 units here. I have no clue what the future holds, but this is all we're talking about now, and we're just working to get through on this.
But you're not planning later to come back if we approve this, say, well, now that it's approved and the water's okay, now we'll double the amount of stuff there.
Well, if they got approved for 48 and then they wanted to do 100, they would have to start over and go through the whole process again.
So we don't once again, I'm contracted to do this. I can't speak to future plans that the church might or might not have. I don't think that'd be fair or accurate. And like I said, it speaks for itself. We've spent a year plus trying to
it's been whittled down by half, more than half. Yeah.
And there's a rec center on it, probably too, right? Or there's something that goes into the field. Or nothing that goes.
There's a playground.
There's a playground.
Playground.
Yeah.
There's a rec center pool. Is there something on the complex too?
No. This is what you see. What you see in front of you is two buildings, and then you see a playground. That's what you see. There you go. Yeah, well, that's inside building A. So that's all the community recreational space is internal to building A. Except the playground, which is external.
And I'm not sure where's the new road added? Is it still going out to Winchester?
Yes, it's the improvement of the existing driveway into standard for a road.
It'll still go out to Winchester, just gonna be a better road.
Yes, it'll be to township standard, including sidewalk, curbing, stormwater, all those
I
things.
believe the intent it's going to be private, so the property owner has to maintain it and.
Correct.
Okay, I'm just nervous about all the fun on it. Because people are worried about that. After living through for years and years and years, and I don't even live there. I live a mile away. It's just these are my friends, and I walk by all the time, and I see the water builds up, and the people's houses are flooded. We've had all this, bad history, and
Yep.
they're just concerned. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yep, and we understand the stormwater and flooding is a major concern. We hear you. So we've made note of it. The applicant has made note of it. We'll try to avoid redundant comments. So is there anyone else in the audience that absolutely?
Good evening. My name is Charles Serfos. I live in Springhouse Estates, just adjacent to the west of the proposal. And just off the top of my head, I haven't gone up and down the streets to determine how many homes are there, but I would say if there are 50 homes in the neighborhood, and let's make this clear that the new apartment complex will be part of the neighborhood. It's not just two apartments built on Calvary Temple's property, and that's how it is. It's going to be integrated into our community. Many people that have been there for 50 years ago, this community probably started. And if you drive through, I've had many people say, oh, this is such a nice neighborhood. It is because we all take pride in our neighborhood, and it took decades to get it to the way it is and to the way the people, the residents, are there. And we have many different kinds of religions, races. It is so diverse. It's such a beautiful neighborhood. Now, say if we have 50 homes there, and you take an average of 4 residents per home. And I'm pretty sure that 4 is even high because all neighborhoods go through their cycles. We have many residents there that are just single owners, husband and wife, and a bunch of children too. But on the average, 50 homes times 4 residents is 200 residents. Now, if you take 48 units and multiply that by 4, 5, that's 200 also. So in the blink of an eye, in my mind, we're doubling our neighborhood in a year or two, which took decades for our community to come together like this. So I'm really concerned about how you can take a small community like this and double it in a year and not have things really change dynamically. And another thing is that was mentioned tonight is that there's going to be social services on the property. Why do you need social services?
You said maybe like a social coordinator on site or something like that.
You didn't say social.
Yes, no, I did. I said social services, and I meant social services. Like,
well, when people move into our neighborhood, I don't believe there's anybody that requests social services. Why is there a need for social services?
I mean, I think township residents use social services all the time, whether it's seniors who use um, Meals on Wheels or families that are getting health screenings or after school programs. I mean, those are all things that are social services. I think they're generally viewed as beneficial um, services that are provided. And so that's part of what we thought is a responsible management strategy, especially considering that, and just to point out, we're talking about 14 one bedrooms and 22 two bedrooms. So 36 of the 48 units are going to be pretty small bedrooms compared to, I've driven through the community as well, and most of the houses they're very nice 3 and 4 bedroom houses. So you're going to have more residents there. These are really not targeted for the 4 and 5 and 6 people that I think you're concerned about. But we've just seen that adjusting and giving opportunities to have on-site management, things like Boys and Girls Club, after-school programs, like I said, Meals on Wheels. The church has a whole host of programs that they run out of the church currently. That they, this is part of their mission as well. So having this on-site service provision is helping further their mission and outreach. So that's kind of the thought process. So I understand, there's obviously an impact on, there are going to be new people and additional people living there. It is very much.
But there's 800 homes going right up the street. 800 units. Times that by 4.
Where's
at the corner of Albert and Cedar Crest?
Okay, but I'm just really talking from
So only from there to there.
Springhouse, this here, our little community. And one thing I want to emphasize, as a planning commission, we don't have carte blanche authority to say you can only do this, you can only do that, you can't do this. We're beholden to state code, we're beholden to municipalities' planning code, and that essentially limits us to what is in the saldo. So some of the items you were discussing are going beyond the saldo, which isn't really our purview, and we don't have necessarily a say in that. So I just want to let you know that we enforce the saldo. Sometimes it's black and white for you guys because you can't show any favoritism or however the guidelines are. You guys have to make your decisions. Yeah. So your decisions, your guidelines are, I should say, just different than mine. I can't speak for everybody in the community. They're a little bit different than what I would think would be a nice proposal for our neighborhood. So also when you said with the ownership, has the Calvary Temple's finances been looked into as far as them being able to maintain the property?
We don't have the right to do that.
Okay, well, isn't that important? If somebody is supposed to maintain, will they be around long enough? If anything is ever approved, they'll have to put financial security up to secure the construction of the improvements. They'll absolutely have to put financial security up. That's the extent. Usually for like a 10-year period security, or is there?
Sorry to chime in. The applicant is signing a 75-year land lease, and they are charged with managing and maintaining the property for the term of that land lease as the property manager. So if they default or something happens, there's contingency plans that would come into play. But I'm not a financial expert, and that's beyond the scope of this commission. But if they're doing 75-year land leases, that's usually says there's some good standing, and if they're operating communities in the whole Mid-Atlantic,
When I
have
heard
to.
75, I thought that
The
was
applicant
also
willing to
like
provide the
good,
township a
good
copy of the land
standing
lease
note too. So
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean,
when it's
obvious
executed.
when it's in draft form, we can provide.
Okay.
Redacted.
Of course, with redactions under attorney-client privilege.
Requesting unredacted, Eric.
Thank you. Under attorney-client privilege, but yes, if the township wanted to understand what that looked like and what that relationship looked like, we take no objection to that.
I appreciate that. I think since the issue was raised tonight, it would be important for us to get a
Absolutely.
glimpse. Thanks.
Let me ask the attorney a question. If the church went out of business tomorrow and you knocked the building down,
Yeah, I mean,
you put more apartments,
we're not here to do that, but yeah, it's permitted on the
it's
inside.
zoned for apartments, it's zoned high density.
They would have to come back
They
here.
would have to
We'd have
come
to come
back.
back.
Go through
Right.
that
They
whole
would have to come back,
process,
but
but
you know,
Yeah,
it's
the
important to
property
remember
will
it's
accommodate.
you're allowed to do this use in this zone. The guys that were sitting here before us and ladies specifically said you can do apartments on this parcel. So there's nothing we can really do to stop them other than to engineer them and make sure they do it properly.
and I know those weren't zoning questions that I had there, but I don't know when I get a chance to speak again if I left here and went home without.
thanks for
No,
your
no, it's
input.
important to
There's going to be a lot more meetings.
All right. Thank
you.
you for your time.
Anyone else?
Hi, my name is Kathy Perinato. I'm 1334 Devon Circle. So this is right in my backyard. And I've been to a few meetings already, and it's gone back and forth whether there's going to be some kind of fencing put up or not. And instead of just arborvitaes or stuff like that. Okay.
Yep. There is a vinyl fence that's proposed that basically mirrors that existing tree row there. And we're happy to work with neighbors on what they construction they'd like to see, color, type
Okay.
of fence.
Well, I wanted to know. We kind of went back and forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Or anyone? Oh,
Hello, everyone. My name is Juan Alvarado. I live in 3420 Kingston Place. This is right behind of the church, Calvary Temple. So the question could be, this is not about the water. It's not about the runoff water. Well, we of course are gonna see it. It's about the safety. I know the church is actually one of the nice ones around here. I'd be glad to see even the pastor, which is a nice person, of course. He can handle many meetings. And the question is about safety. So the first one could be about lighting. All you guys notice, this building is about 2 blocks away from the shopping center. So that means everybody from there is going to start walking down the street without 2 blocks away. According with what we have right now, it's almost nothing. It's dark out. If anybody's gonna walk, it's gonna walk at dark. I'm not talking about Winchester. I'm talking about Kingston Place, and also I'm talking about Lister Place.
yes. So within the property, we have lighting requirements. We have a lighting consultant that will review the lighting. Once you get outside the property, once you get beyond the property, we're handcuffed. We can't require off-site improvements. We can't require them to put street lights, down the street, because we can only require them to work within their property.
Okay. Well, the second question would be the sidewalk. I hear it's about be only at the front entrance and also around Winchester. So if I live in, let's say, right at the end of the church, where the first couple houses are next to it, I have to walk right on the grass through, again, the shopping center. I mean, I can handle when I can see a couple cars at night, but with over 200 people, I'm gonna start seeing a little more traffic, and probably not all of them are gonna come through it. But just imagine people from the center or from this the store. I mean, the pizza place are gonna start to delivering more stuff over through the easy corner, which is Keystone Place, actually, not the other way around because it's gonna be all crowd. No? So the question could be: is sidewalk plant on it, Keystone Place, through
And in terms of sidewalk and frontage improvements, once again, we can only require the sidewalks on their property frontage, and I'll let the engineer speak to it. I believe you are proposing sidewalk all along your property frontage.
Yeah, that is correct. And Dave is kind of zooming in there on it. You'll see it in the the tan color. It follows the geometry of the road from basically connecting to the sidewalk there that's on the church, goes up Lester, and then makes a left onto Winchester, where it ultimately connects with an existing piece of sidewalk to the west.
So to the fullest extent possible that we're allowed to require them to put sidewalk, we're gonna make them do that, and that's their property frontage. We can't make them put sidewalk in front of other people's property.
So the last question could be: I mean, I'm an old guy. I mean, I try to walk my dogs also. So I've seen a lot of people walking the dogs always at the same place. We are talking about the same area. So of course I come with my bag, but I wonder if they had the food, maybe later some plans to see those nice animals, nice dogs walking in a place like a dog park or something like that.
And I know they're proposing some open space, and they'll probably have some meetings with Park and Rec to discuss that. I would recommend if you coordinate with staff and see when those Park and Rec meetings are, and you could provide some input, because I think the Parks and Rec board may have some input regarding that open space, and applicant's team would be willing to work with the Parks and Rec board.
Thanks for the questions.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Anyone online?
Joanne Pena, 3410 Kingston Place. You can unmute your microphone.
Hi, yes, how are you? How's everyone doing tonight? I am a resident and I live at 3410 Kingston Place, right across the street from the second unnecessary parking lot, if I say so myself. I have major concerns as a homeowner. I want to say clearly that I strongly oppose this project, and I believe like it really does not belong in our neighborhood. Um, this is a quiet residential community that many of us have worked extremely hard to build, maintain, and we've invested in. Introducing a large, high density housing complex of this nature will fundamentally and permanently change the character, safety, and property values of our neighborhood. Property value is a major concern for myself. Historically, developments like this have shown that it's lowered home values. and it's made it significantly harder for homeowners like ourselves to sell in these types of environments. There's also a major quality of life concern. A project like this is going to increase traffic. We already have traffic with Target, Weiss, everything else in between, right off of Cedar Crest and Winchester. And I just feel like it's a congestion concern, parking, noise, activity, everything in between. I have a special needs child myself, and there's a lot of seniors on this block that rely on the quietness and just the predictable nature of our streets. Another critical concern that I have is, why is there a need for a full-time social services coordinator on site? I don't understand that. Developments like this often house individuals and families who are actually facing serious challenges, from financial instability, unemployment, to mental health struggles, substance abuse, recovery, and housing insecurity. And just providing an apartment is not enough. And without that support, a lot of these issues go on out onto the neighborhood. I don't feel like it's appropriate for any of these issues to be brought onto the residents that have worked so hard to control that. I'm not opposed to affordable housing as a concept, but this particular project in itself and the location with this scale and without appropriate support or infrastructure, I don't feel is appropriate. And I don't feel like it doesn't fit the character of our neighborhood. It jeopardizes the investment we've made in our homes, and it exposes us to risk and disruptions we did not genuinely sign up for. And I genuinely urge the board to reject the proposal. And our neighborhood is not the right place for this development. And moving forward with it would be a huge mistake for everyone in this area. That's my genuine opinion.
Thank you for your opinion. I just want to reiterate, it's zoned, the land is zoned for the apartment use, period. It's an allowed use. We cannot just carte blanche change the zoning and say, no, you can't do it. I'll just leave
I
it at
understand that, but is the parking lot directly at the water reservoir 100% necessary? I've lived here for over 20 years, and that parking lot for the church itself has never been full where there are people parking off the street.
that
I've
may
never
be,
seen it that full. I don't find it 100% necessary.
yeah, and we mentioned that
And we've
earlier,
had
and
significant flooding, as other people have stated before when they spoke.
yeah, and we mentioned before how that
And
parking lot is not full really ever, and maybe that's something that can be discussed with zoning, that maybe in lieu of all that parking that's not needed, maybe provide a little more green space. Just a thought.
And just so the public's aware, the zoning hearing board is separate from our board. This is the planning commission, and the zoning hearing board is a separate entity in the township, and it'll be a separate hearing with the applicant. And this board doesn't have any oversight whatsoever onto any zoning questions.
okay, and what does genuinely the church benefit out of this project in itself, tax-wise?
You say that again?
From our understanding, many of the neighbors have heard that the general person who's in charge of planning this, the church owner, Calvary Temple's owner, has stated that it was a religious reason as to why the whole project came into play. Does anybody have any emphasis on that?
Planning commission, I don't know if the applicant has anything to say.
I don't.
Okay. Thanks for your input.
That's interesting. A lot of people that attend the church have stated that.
Sorry, I don't think anyone heard that. Okay. Is there anyone else online? No. Anyone else? in the audience? Final opportunity. I mean, there'll be more meetings for sure. All right. Hopefully you received some input to do what you have to do on your end.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right.
Good seeing you.
Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, and just a reminder, we have a meeting still going on, so if you have discussions, you can take it out in the hallway.
I took the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think Jackson Dart could have shot against that defense. No, they just scored one. They'll run away in the second half. Just keep telling myself that. Unleash.
Yeah. All right. Agenda item number 5, transportation infrastructure update. Ms. Bet.
Hi. Okay. I think last meeting, I'll start up again. I think last meeting we discussed the 309 Tillman Interchange project and the need for updated website link through PennDOT to be posted on the township website. We contacted the people from PennDOT who are working specifically on the project, and it is now, Dave has it up now, but you can go on the township website, click on the link, and it sends a direct project summary page for the project. We were told that that would provide the most up-to-date information as things progress forward. Another thing that we've had talked about in the past is the Arley grant is going out to bid, and that is for the Hamilton Boulevard and Lincoln signal improvements. This has to do with the timing, peaking, adjusting differently based upon the peak of Dorney Park. It would allow township police to not always be present during those peak hours. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Agenda item number 6, courtesy of the floor. Oh, sorry.
No, I just wanted to ask, I have a general question. I think there might be like 3 public notices posted in the township right now. Is there an easy place to find that information versus pulling off roadside?
So
read text.
Public notice is tied to each board. So there's a BOC notice, there's a zoning hearing board notices, there's planning commission notices. It's an interesting point, and probably something that would be helpful to have on our website is just a one-stop shop for public notices.
Yeah.
I think we can certainly pull that off. It's a good idea. Thank you, Todd. And Todd's online.
Well, I can ask you later then about where they specifically are.
Yeah.
I think it's important to note that the major one, the one that's coming up in the near future, is a hearing for a zoning ordinance amendment on October 15th regarding the PERT overlay that we had discussions here about. I don't know if you were in attendance.
Yeah.
There's a large billboard out here in the lobby that I believe is there a QR code on it?
Is that the one you're
Well,
referring
I'll
to?
go through the 3 to be true. So yeah, there's the PERT overlay zoning that has multiple billboards. There is possibly something posted across the street on 309 from the gas station.
That is Wawa is zoning hearing board. Yep.
And I couldn't tell if it was a different notice or the same at the entry road to the chemical plant off of Cedar Crest. It is
That
on
would have
different
been
text.
The PERT.
Small one?
Yeah. So for the PERT overlay, we post every property that's part of it. So we tried to Tried to post the larger ones at the most conspicuous spots, and then we use smaller ones on individual properties. Essentially, that whole corner between Petercrest, Mauchunk is essentially what that is.
Thank you.
Say I think the 309 Tillman has gotten slightly better since I lived there. Since we last met, it is still very annoying, but improvements. It's smoother. It doesn't take me 20 minutes to get to Lightbridge, the daycare anymore. I can like.
I agree.
So it's.
I think people are avoiding it.
Yeah, I'm glad. Cops seem to be catching all the people trying to make it. Kids are very excited about entrance to our neighborhood. So kudos to the staff.
All right.
The other courtesy of the floor is we also have the open space referendum is on the ballot. There's a poster out front. There's information on the website. Chris wanted me to mention that. I'd be in trouble if I didn't. And for next meeting, we have applications we received. St. Joseph Solar Project, Parkland High School, and the Parkland Transportation Lot Consolidation are the three that we will see, likely to see at the next meeting.
All right. Anyone online? For courtesy of the floor? Nope. All right. Agenda item number 7. I want to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So moved. All right.
Really?
I don't know what